Despite leading the WNBA in assists, having the record for most assists in the game, and breaking the WNBA's record for most assists by a rookie, Caitlin Clark is still just a rookie. And if we know one thing about generational talents, they only get better with time. And here's how Caitlin Clark could do so. We've seen Caitlin Clark take this shot many times and knock it down many times coming off this drag screen, but it doesn't change the fact that it's a tough shot and she could get a better one. Because if Caitlin Clark decided to come off tight with the drag screen with Aaliyah Boston and not leave all this room, she would have one of three things. One, she would either have an open three right here hugged up down the middle of the floor facing the drop coverage. Two, 13 on her left side would realize Skylar Diggins got hit on that screen. I need to go help and show a hand because Caitlin Clark can't get no threes. Then Alyssa Smith would proceed to now cut down that left side and get a layup. Or three, Alyssa Smith will end up cutting just like we saw before because 13 showed a hand, and then Kelsey Mitchell's defender would plug in, and now Kelsey Mitchell would be wide open for a three on that left side. But what ends up happening, Caitlin Clark takes a three from 35 feet going to her left. Caitlin Clark's got to get better at passing with her left hand. So you see Caitlin Clark go right and now cut back to his left side, and as soon as she gets off the screen, Aaliyah Boston slips and Caitlin Clark sees two. Now she has to find the open teammate. And if she's able to use her left hand to pass, she should lob this over the top to Aaliyah Boston in the middle. 13 steps over, Alyssa Smith steps in, and now that's a layup from there, 2-on-1. But since she can't pass with the left, she has to bring it back to her right, where Skylar Diggins is waiting for the pass to be thrown, and she ends up turning the ball over. I heard Caitlin Clark has been working on her floaters, but she has not been working on her floaters the right way. And so when you watch the best floaters of all time, the Chris Paul, Tony Parker, Steve Nash, when they float the ball, they keep their hand open like it's a high five, instead of flicking their wrist through when they shoot their floater. If you look at Caitlin Clark when she does her floater, she flicks her wrist like a real jump shot. And so she's got to correct that in order to have a consistent floater. This is where Caitlin Clark and the entire Indiana Fever could all get better. You know how in Golden State, where Steph and Clay would get their split actions, where they'll pass the ball to the post, and then Steph and Clay could curl over the top and get a three. They could go back door and play 2-for-1 in the paint because they top guarded, or the screener could slip out and now you're playing 2-for-1 down there in the paint on that baseline. If the Fever did the same thing with either Nalissa or Katie as a screener for Caitlin, this is where it's unguardable because it's an unswitchable action. They don't know how to communicate, and worst comes to worst, if they guard it good, Aaliyah Boston ISO in the post. I don't mind that. But I do mind this, where you now have to throw risky passes and try to create some sort of offense out of nothing. If Caitlin Clark adds this one move, nobody in the WNBA will be able to guard her. She got the switch with 13. If she decides to show her eyes, fake the ball pickup, she will fall for that hezzy, and everyone who switches onto her will do so as well. And now she won't have to settle for these 35 foot threes over these switches. Anytime you end up getting a ball screen set this high up, 99% of the time, the defender is going to go underneath, even if you're Caitlin Clark or Steph. And so you could play chess in this situation, and instead of settling for these 40 footers, you could understand that, okay, if I'm this high up, and I'm Caitlin Clark, and I like to shoot all my shots going to my left, let's first set the screen going to my right hand, where we can now get further down on this right side, and then we can set a rescreen where the defender first went under, but since we're lower, they now have to chase over. And since they have a drop, Caitlin Clark would now be able to get to her left hand tighter to the line and get a higher quality look. But now she just ends up settling for this shot right here. In transition is going to be a time where Caitlin Clark could get many open threes, but she's going to have to run harder. And so you got Kelsey Mitchell going down the middle, and since Caitlin decides to stay on this wing and stay behind and not run to that deep corner, Kelsey Mitchell, 1, does not see her, and 2, 21 is right back into the play. So even if Caitlin Clark caught the ball, she's going to have a defender right on her side. But if she got down to that deep corner, that's a catch, shot, catch, pump fake, reload, and you don't see no other defender. Anytime you throw a backdoor or a lob pass, it's never about the primary defender, like Aaliyah Boston with Skylar Diggins in the situation. It's always about the help. And now what you're going to see out of Caitlin Clark is she recognizes that the help on the weak side, they baited. They stepped in, they stunned, but they're getting out to the three-point line, and she decides to lead that pass. But now you're leading the pass down to the paint where 12 is on the block. And since she's not spaced out to that three-point line, you have to take account for that and make sure your teammates are spaced before you throw risky passes like that. Since Caitlin Clark is going to be guarding the least ball dominant perimeter player a majority of the time, her positioning is going to be key. And so notice as the ball gets to the middle, her chest is faced towards the opposite baseline, her defender is behind her and she's up the line of the pass, and so the person she's guarding is going to be able to just get loose anytime she wants. And if she wants to be able to fix this, she's got to make one small little adjustment. So instead of having your chest face the opposite baseline, if she angled her chest towards the person she's guarding and then put her eyes down the middle by looking over her right shoulder, she'll be able to use her peripheral to be able to see the ball and the person she's defending.